I am a fan of invisible visual effects.
The DOP of Bhavesh Joshi superhero Siddharth Diwan, he revealed something.
When we hear terms from directors and
Producers also ready to spend more on visual effects these days.
artistic versus creative field. I mean, every job has a specific set of skills that you learn. Why women are an essential part of the workforce, especially in visual effects.
In today's time, at least the mainstream films are heavily dependent on VFX.
Take the example of the one that we just won the award for.
Hello, salam, namaste, sat sri akal. I am Brian and you are watching the VFX Institute podcast. Today we have with us Priyanka Balasubramanian, the founder at Hoop VFX and the executive producer. So, welcome Priyanka.
Thank you so much.
We are delighted to have you over here. And first of all, congratulations for the awards at the VAM Summit 2025.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, for perspective, they have won the award in the category of digital OTT for best effect simulation, composition and best VFX and animation. So, congratulations for that.
Thanks to the entire team that was behind this, and congratulations to everybody who was involved in the show.
Indeed.
Yes.
So, we'll start with something that caught my attention. So, in the VAM Summit, in one of the conversations, the DOP of Bhavesh Joshi superhero Siddharth Diwan, he revealed something which actually caught my attention very much. There was a scene in the film which to me, I thought it's real, but they said that it was done entirely in a studio with green screens, you know. So my question to you is that you've also said something in an article I read, so I'll quote you. You said that I'm a big fan of invisible VFX, what you don't see. Say I'm doing a scene set in the 1920s or 30s, New York or London. If I can recreate that entire set without anybody knowing it was completely computer generated, I think that's its own success. Okay, so can you walk me through your philosophy of invisible VFX?
Sure. I think it's a very nice question, and I was there for the session and I really found that very insightful. I've not watched Bhavesh Joshi, but I'm guessing, it's as seamless as he made it out to be, that it was all invisible and it was not very heavily recognizable VFX. So when I talk usually about visual effects, I try to sort of understand where the origin of visual effects comes from. So back in the day, visual effects was all optical, right? Like everything used to happen in camera. They used to like paint over negatives, and that's how like visual effects was done in the early years, maybe 25 years ago or 30 years ago. And now there's an industry, which is completely reliant on like CG technology. We have like hardware and software that is able to, replicate that on a screen that is like, visible, and we are able to actually tangibly see the output real time. So in order to understand what invisible visual effects is, we need to understand why there is an industry of visual effects in the first place, why certain things are not achievable in camera, and why they need our help for it. So there are two categories. One is sort of, realistic motion picture or anything that you're trying to achieve which is not like capturable on live action plate. Let's say, for example, you want a location that you're not able to go to. That is sort of falls under the realism spectrum. But also there are films that are in the sci-fi category where you want like supernatural stuff. There is like magic happening like Harry Potter. So those are fantastic visual effects. So it's sort of the audience obviously knows that there's work being done on it. So I am a fan of invisible visual effects because it aids storytelling. It's sort of the process. Not to say that spectacular visual effects is not great. You have a use case for it. You have certain category of films that fall under that bracket where you can clearly see this is computer generated, and it aids in that storytelling process because fans are looking for that. They are looking to see all those Marvel special effects. Whereas in a drama, period piece, let's say for example, they wouldn't want to actually obviously see that this is, and that's where often we hear terms from directors and producers, this is looking fake. So when I call it invisible visual effects, I'm often referring to the seamless nature of storytelling, that visual effects sort of becomes a part of it and not the hero of it. So that's where invisible is like, I am there, but you don't know that I'm there. So I'm not the main character in the film. I'm not trying to be the hero of the film. So it's that. And that's the beauty of visual effects. We are a part of the storytelling process and we don't become the story itself.
Yeah, like invisible VFX is circuit and the film is Munnavai. Side character.
Yes.
And also in the thing that you said in that same session, Devan also referred to that moment saying that they wanted a location in real life in Delhi, but they couldn't find one according to his vision. So that was also a decision of shooting that particular scene in a studio to achieve something real worldly, which they couldn't find. Or let's say for you, I'll ask, so have there been any moments where you weren't able to find a location that could have been possibly somewhere in the world, but you are not finding it, or maybe you're not getting the permission to it, but your team came around and made way for the director's vision for something real worldly, but you made it in VFX? Has there been a moment like that?
So yes, multiple moments, but I'll just take the example of the one that we just won the award for,
Okay.
which is the museum projection project.
Alright.
So this was for the Quantico Museum in Virginia. It's basically a military based projection, a few films that we did, series of films,
Okay.
which demonstrate the military's capabilities that went on the Operation Desert Storm, which is
Okay.
the operation that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. So this is basically based on the Middle East, in the Middle East. Obviously, we're in India, our clients based in the West. There's nobody that's able to go and take actual live location shoots of where this
Iranian.
really exactly. So we just had to reference terrains and what the environment and the geographic locations used to look like, what the alleyways used to look like,
Okay.
and recreate some of those. So we did have a few set builds that was on set when they captured some live footage,
Okay.
but the rest of it had to be computer generated, like matte paintings and CG environments. So there's often only a little bit you can do when it comes to storytelling. There's a lot that is dependent on the budget that the producer will have for such a show. Let's say it's obviously the US military, so there's also classified information
Right.
and things like that you can't really go and shoot certain place anywhere. So a lot of it has to be based on research data available already to the public, and that is what we used to work up on our background plate. We created environments for that project, and we were able to control a lot of things like the lighting, the look and feel, everything, because it was all computer generated. And that is the beauty of it. Even Siddharth, when he spoke about doing that entire sequence within the controlled frame, controlled studio
Environment,
setting,
yeah, okay.
what is exciting for everybody involved in that shoot is that everything is under some, everybody's control. Like the rain comes on cue, the actors are able to emote on cue.
Exactly, that's what he said.
Yeah,
the
there is-
rain comes on cue.
Yeah, exactly. There's absolutely no outside influence or external influences on what could go wrong or what could go like. Will it start raining? Will the weather start influencing things? Or lighting would go off. So you don't have all those problems when you're inside a controlled environment such as the studio space.
Right.
And everybody is doing their job and they're able to efficiently get stuff done within the time frame that's set for them, and it works out beautifully because a lot can now be achieved in visual effects.
Right, that's great.
Yeah.
Also, like in this only, as you said, so it's also period piece. You're talking about Mission Desert Storm, so this is like post 9/11 stuff.
Yes.
So how do you manage that? We are living in 2025 and we are talking about like 25 years ago. So how is the research process in this?
It's all reference images, photography, all the research documentation that comes from the client. You sort of do an extensive overview of what exactly is the look and feel that they are trying to achieve. But obviously it's also museum piece, right? This is not a photoreal, it's not a feature film, or
Okay.
it's not a documentary.
Ah.
So it doesn't really have to be exact to the T, but you have some creative liberty to do what you want to do with the space, but it just has to be believable. So we
Okay.
had that creative liberty to come up with something that looks exciting at the same time not totally out of context.
Right.
And we had a lot of say from the museum itself as to how this piece has to look. So it was a
Okay.
lot of feedback that we got from the museum, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day they are the ones that are having the installation.
All right. So this was a really interesting example, I'll have to admit. Okay. So you've been more than 17 years in the industry now,
Yes.
and you began as a data wrangler. Am I saying
Yes,
that right?
data wrangler.
Wrangler.
Yes, I don't think that exists. That term exists anymore. It used to be in those
So,
days. Yeah.
What is a data wrangler?
So a wrangler is somebody who just wrangles everything, just
Okay.
pulls everything together and keeps hold of things from multiple directions. So data wrangler pretty much does that. So in charge of data coming in, going out, internally, externally, yada yada. So that was my job, I worked on a show. My first ever show was for a Volkswagen website, where they were building different models of the car, and to the bolt, to the nuts and the bolts. So every car and every model obviously had a different set of interiors and exteriors and parts. So it was my job to pretty much catalog all of it, to make sure everybody who is like, let's say the modeling team is just doing everything relating to that particular model number. And then there were like, hundreds of them that had to be modeled, and each were very ever so slightly different. The bonnet would be a slightly bigger one, or the wheels would be slightly different shape or material. So it's sort of wrangling all of that data, imagine for each and every car, to know like every specifics, and making sure everybody had access to that information, and people are working on it without effing up.
No, now that you are speaking about it, it feels like you were so interested in that job. But was it really like that, or did you feel that this is a really arduous task at that time?
It was actually very exciting for me, because I never realized that there's so much. When we just open a website and we see all these, funky things happening, and you're just seeing a car, clicking on it, and then going inside, just showing you an overview of what's inside the car. You are like just having a seamless user experience. But all the work that actually goes behind that, we had a complete, separate floor dedicated to that job. It was just a website. And I was just intrigued by it, because I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that I could be a part of something so significant. And it was like, obviously Volkswagen was a brand that I wanted to, it was the first job, and I was like, working with Volkswagen, and got to understand all the parts of the vehicle. And yeah, it was a very nice experience for somebody who was ready to do anything. And for me, I came from the background, like, give me anything, I'll do it.
Yeah, so you came with that vigor that I'll do anything because I have to get here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so in this same line, let's talk about other guys. Because in this industry, it's a beautiful industry, our film industry entirely. Most of the beginners who come here, they have to resort to jobs like this, which are more laborious or more logistical rather than being creative. So how does someone who come into the industry as a starter, how does that person keep himself, he keeps going like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this. How does one stay persistent in that time?
See, I don't see it as a logistic versus creative field. I mean, to be very honest with you, I feel that every job has a specific set of skills that you learn on the job, right? Even if it is just serving tea and coffee, which is what I did.
Yeah,
when I started, even though you feel like you're a fly on the wall, it's sort of, it's still a fly on the wall with the best people in the world, and that's the perspective that nobody gets. Like, you are a fly on the wall with people who you would never have brushed shoulders with. And for me, that was an experience that I wasn't ready to let go of, and that gave me. I was delivering tapes, hard drives, and all of that across Soho. And I was able to, talk to managing directors of different companies. Even though I was like delivering tapes for shows, I'd stay and like wait for them to open and see what the content is. I'd be like looking at what they're doing with it, what the process is after that. So there was a lot of observation that happens when you're actually not creatively involved, because you're like, I'm not responsible for the delivery, but at the same time, I'm getting all this information, this knowledge about what's happening. So I think it is like second schooling, and without having to pay for it, we were getting paid to do this, getting paid to do it, and getting that experience. I think it's a double whammy, and people should, whatever job that they get, I think they should look at it from the perspective that what is it giving them room on the table for, and how they can best utilize that.
Yeah, because that's what I also tried to mention over here, and that's what you answered, like I was like, or do you like it as a blessing in disguise for a beginner to learn and observe from an active working environment? So that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the opportunity is for everybody. That's what I think. Like, if a junior is there and they have been given, let's say, a roto job to do, it's in the same environment. You're sitting with all the seniors, you're sitting with everybody. So it's up to you to utilize the time, the tools and the resources that you're given to learn something more if you want to, or do something else completely different from what you are learning. Let's say you want to do like production, you want to learn some management, observe that. Unless you take that initiative, nobody else is going to serve it on a platter for you. I think the world is so fast paced and moving now, that especially for the new generation, there's just so much competition. So if you have to strive to be good at what you want to do, I think you've got to have that idea of where you want to be and strive to work towards it.
Yeah. So let's increase the polygons of our conversation. So you have done MA in Independent Film, Video and New Screen Media from the University of London. It sounds like a really interesting course. What is it like? Independent film and video, what is it about?
So independent, or like now they call it independent films, like they used to call it independent films then as well. It's very much what you guys do at the VFX Institute, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's like we do all of it. Like we do the scripting, the breakdown, the budgeting, the locations, the shoots, audio, editing, sound, I mean till final picture post. So it's basically one person independent as a one person learning the whole gamut of filmmaking. So that's why I found that course really interesting, and you know, we learned how to make a lot of films just by ourselves. And there's a separate category of independent filmmakers that actually do films just on their own, and they are all small budget films. They're not like they're micro level artistic films. Yeah, so they're not your usual commercial range of films. They probably go for like film festivals and things like that. But then what I learned from that course is how to make films,
right.
And through that process I got to understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, because I've always wanted to be in films, but just didn't know which part of it I would fit in.
Right.
So this gave me an idea as to, okay, maybe I'm good at posts, but again, like I hadn't narrowed myself down to visual effects at that stage. So I was good at post, and I was also good at cinematography, which is something that I was very interested in. So if I had not been exposed to visual effects, I would probably have been a cinematographer today. That was actually one of the things that I enjoyed doing, is being behind the camera.
Right.
So yeah, that was the course that caught my attention. There were obviously lots of other courses, but this one caught my attention because it gave me an end-to-end perspective.
The entire thing, you are getting the entire, all different courses in one.
All different courses in one.
Everything in filmmaking.
But then it was also very hard because you have to do all of it yourself. You have to carry your own equipment. There's nobody there to help you out. Like there's nobody to like hold a light for you, for example.
Entirely solo.
It's a solo production, yeah.
Right, great. Okay, so on those lines, what do you think is the situation of independent films? Like not independent films in an extreme sense like you talked of, but these films, you know, that go on
indie
festivals,
budgets,
indie budget films, you know, which require visual effects as an essential in their storytelling toolkit. But you know, VFX is a long process. So do indie films have the budget to fairly pay the visual effects and CGI artists for the work they truly deserve?
See, indie films, you should understand like what are they trying to say in the films. Is, like I said, is visual effects the hero of the film, or we're just aiding the storytelling process, or is it something that happened because it was not factored in for? So independent films usually fall under the category of, oh, we had not factored, either if we had not factored in that we would need visual effects because we left a piece of equipment lying on the floor, or we're not able to shoot these things, monitor comms or background replacement, that sort of stuff. So independent films usually fall under the more 2D or like lighter visual effects bracket, and because of which a lot less of involvement in the pre-production stage needs to happen. And it is quite transparent, and there's obviously a post-production person usually involved with a show like that, especially in British independent cinema. There'll be somebody, you know, overseeing what is needed for post. And if there is a heavy involvement, let's say they want a creature in there, they would involve us in the beginning. So the understanding is that if it's an independent film, there would be expectations to not go ballistic on the visual effects. It would be, you know, brought down to the needs of the film and the needs of the story, rather than trying to make it a spectacle. And that's where I think, you know, the budgets will also sort of fall in that category of this is how much we have, what can we do with it. And so we as visual effects studios would tell them that when you go on set, just make sure you do this, and don't do list of things. And if you do these don't do list of things, then you would end up blowing your budget. And even after that, if they go against that advice, and for whatever reason it happens in shoot that it wasn't shot right, then the discussion comes down to, oh, we're out of budget and we have to find a way to get this done. That's when budgets get squeezed. But usually in independent films the budgets are well known ahead of time, because we are not the central part of the story. We're just an aid,
just aiding the script,
aiding the script. So we're usually in control of the budgets, and we are aware that it is not going to be as much as a fully blown feature
mainstream film. Yeah.
Mainstream film, yeah.
Alright, so are like producers also ready to spend more on visual effects these days? Producers as in the film producers for the post.
I think it's a double-edged sword, your question. I think there are definitely people want to spend on visual effects, but for the right reasons.
Okay.
Right, like if I have money, I obviously want to spend it for the right reasons. I mean, if it was anybody's money, they want to spend it for the right reason. They want to get the value for what they're paying for as well.
Right.
So the producers these days are also like that. I think they want to spend on stuff that matters, on the real key stuff like CG. At least in South, we're seeing all of that. Like, a lot of CG sequences, they really are spending money on the Bahubalis of the world, and stuff that is probably incidental, like I said, cleanups or comps or stuff that sort of happened on set, so we had to fix it in post. That sort of stuff is definitely where we see a lot of crunch in terms of budget. But when it comes to the stuff that matters, where it is an integral part of storytelling, producers are willing to spend top dollar on it, but they are also expecting top dollar results. So they won't just let you off the leash and say, oh, that's it, we take your service for granted. But they do hold you accountable for what they're paying for. But yes, budgets are always getting squeezed. Producers' job is to make sure, and especially because visual effects is the end of the production line.
Right.
So unless we are really upfront in the filmmaking process, where we get like the script breakdown stage or the pre-production stage, where all the departments sit together and figure out how to shoot, it often becomes a question of, can we do it?
Yeah.
Can we squeeze?
Because it comes at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe that in today's time, at least the mainstream films are heavily dependent on VFX. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's because people have seen the positive or the upside to having visual effects to aid you, and they're like, let's just leave it to post. Sometimes that also happens. It becomes a habit that, okay, we've done it, but we could have moved that stuff that was lying around, but we just thought they will just fix it. But they don't realize that. For example, we came across one film where they just, they were again an independent film for micro budgets, but they just forgot to put apply banners across like their college setting where there was some event happening. It was a matter of printing a few posters and posting it everywhere. But it became such a big job when it had to come like 50-60 shots to us for just comping all of that. Whatever could have been finished with 10,000 rupees, so just print out and just sticking on the walls became a big job, because we had to roto everybody who was crossing those pillars and a signpost. And it became a huge visual effects job, and it really, those kind of things can be avoided where it is possible, and that's the avoidable visual effects. But it's okay. Like, I think the industry is benefiting from doing that kind of work as well. But those things do happen a lot.
So first of all, I believe that your story actually gives power to a lot of women actively working in like proper, physical workspaces. So in that article that I mentioned earlier, you talked about something at Hoop, which I honestly believe deserves an applause, like a big applause. So the thing is that you said that you guys are trying to keep women in the thrum of work, like in simple words, in the rhythm of being able to work constantly, while still letting them dedicate their time to their families.
Yes.
Right. So, wow, I mean, why do you think such a strong initiative is really important in today's time for companies to take?
Okay, so answer for this is sort of multi-pronged. I'll start off with why women are an essential part of the workforce, especially in visual effects. Our mums and dadis and nannies, they were obviously not a part of actively a part of workspace. I mean, there are some people who have been working as well. No, I'm talking about the general Indian population of women in those generations who are not a part of an active workforce. And when we talk about today's world, every other woman is educated. We want women to come out and do something for themselves, be financially independent, take care of themselves, let alone like be an entrepreneur and start your own thing if you ever wanted to. So I have always come from a background, my family has supported me through the processes, that they've always said, Priyanka, you've got to do something on your own, and that's sort of the upbringing that I've had. So I've always thought that if I'm able to have this sort of an opinion about myself and what I want to do with my own life, why shouldn't somebody else have that same privilege of having to continue working despite having whatever challenges they have. I mean, when I say challenges, I don't mean challenges, but actually just life happens. You have kids, you get married, you get married to a different family who have different priorities for you, and you sort of, as a woman, you end up having to juggle priorities, right? We're always constantly juggling priorities. And it is important for companies to recognize that as gender specific roles, we all have different challenges, and only if we encourage women to sort of stay working even after certain life events do we actually encourage them, the other people who are coming after them for generations to come, to say that, oh, this is actually a lucrative career, I'll be looked after here. I'm not going to be abandoned. I get a lot of stories from other moms who from IT spaces and other sectors, where even doctors, for example, like they go on they go for like jobs before they have children, and after they come back after having babies for like 2 years, they sort of say, oh well, you're out of touch, you've not done surgeries for X number of years, so you can't go back to doing what you were doing. I mean, I would like to think visualfx is slightly different. I mean, if we actually empower people, yes, it might take a few months for them to adapt to new tools. Let's say they're using a specific tool and then they've upgraded over 2 years, there are new tools that have come in place. Give them a couple of months to get to understand where to catch up, and I'm sure we'll be as good as you all. And that is where I feel like we have to really bridge the gap and give people, obviously not all women, I would again like not want to be saying that every woman just because of her right of having being born as a woman needs to be given that sort of this thing. But if you are worthy enough, if you're really putting in the hard work, and if you are showing the interest of wanting to do this for your life and not like give up on your career, I definitely would like to support such people, and not just because of the gender, but I think it goes for everybody. But people who are specifically women who show extra interest and extra effort, because I know as a woman, I know how difficult it is to like juggle different areas in life.
I hope there are the blessings of all the women who have worked with you or such.
I hope so. We'll know.
Okay, so in this same line of questioning, I have to ask you, with all of your experience and wisdom, advices for 3 kinds of different girls and women. So number 1, someone who has just come into the industry, is really young, does not have many responsibilities, and can go full throttle on the hustling. So what should that person do?
They should go through full throttle on the hustling. I think that's if you're able to, and if you have no dependence or like anything that is holding you back from achieving your full potential, you should just go for it, because life gives you opportunities only once. And women should just take advantage of it. I mean, and also if they're not happy with what they're doing, they should try and look for what makes them happy.
Would you be like assertive on the fact that in these times, if you want to achieve something, you can cut down on your comfort like sleep and maybe food, but because you have to do that?
When you're young, definitely. When you're young, I wouldn't say like work your work days and nights continuously, but I have done that. I think we come from that sort of a generation as well, right? Like when we were young and we were in our just passing out of college, we had the energy to do that, but plus we also had that sort of a mental makeup that you had to work hard to come up in life. Right? That was what was imbibed in us from the school age. Like your teachers, if you don't work hard, you're not getting anywhere in life. That's the usual narrative that's being told to us. But I think children and like students of this age generation, they have much more exposure. They're able to see what's happening around the world, and they sort of come from a little bit more of a privileged state of being, where I think they kind of also know what they want to do in life, and they're not afraid to wait for it. They don't mind waiting for the right opportunity. They don't mind, this is not my cup of tea, I'm happy to walk away from it. And I think that's a commendable thing to have, because seriously at that age, some of us, I mean, I know me and some of my friends, we had no clue what we wanted to do in life. And for somebody in this day and age to say, oh yeah, I don't mind, I don't like this opportunity, I'd rather hold out for a better offer, I think it's a different level of confidence. And if you're able to achieve that level of success by waiting for it, then that's commendable.
Great. And what advice would you give to someone who has to keep a work-life balance, someone who has has grown with age, has gotten married, now has a family?
I'd say that try to stay relevant. Staying relevant doesn't just mean that putting food on the table and you're taking care of your family and kids, but at least try to be a part of like industry events, or like read up about what's going on, what's everybody doing. It doesn't have to be an everyday task. You just need to like spend a few hours a week figuring out what's generally going
Maybe
on.
Just stay aware of what's happening.
Stay aware and stay updated, because there's a lot that, I mean, in our industry especially, there's a lot of evolution in terms of tech that happens. Starting from when we started, it was like what HD, now in 2K, and now 4K. 4K, now 4K, more than that. Now we've gone like
8K,
So it's sort of understanding that the needs of the market is changing, the content is changing, what more mediums are being watched these days, that's also changing. So it's important to keep that. I tell everybody in my company also, like, know your projects. If you're working on a show, be curious, find out who is the director, who is the producer, what is the story, go and watch your films that you've worked on. Show some interest in the industry, because we are the industry at the end of the day. If you work on something, go and watch it. I mean, don't download it and watch it, but like just watch it on the theater or on OTT platforms. But if we don't
watch it legally
and watch what you've made, and be proud of it, and be proud of other people's work as well. If somebody has made something, I love watching like films. Every week I go and sit and watch what's other late night shows, I must admit, but it gives me a sense of like belonging, that okay, this is happening, there's some great work out there. And it also makes you a bit aspirational, that you look at other people's work and like, oh yeah, I want to do this. I wish we were able to do it. And there's always people who are going to be better than you, and there's always a space for growth and improvement.
Now the third category, I don't know if it would be like advice, but what are your thoughts on some woman who's like worked sufficient in her life, has achieved a lot, but in the end decides to retire? Because on one hand, people would be like, oh, you are doing so great, you are on the peak of your career, why are you deciding to retire? But there might be some other reasons. Maybe she wants to just move on with life. And
I think they should. I mean, people should do what they want to do in life, and they should never be like held responsible for doing something because of societal constraints or what other people think they should be doing. And especially us as women, we are often subject to like, oh, you have a child now, like how are you going to manage business and having children, and who is going to get more attention? Is it like your kid's going to miss out? So it's always we're under scrutiny as to where our energy goes. And at the end of the day, if I at some point in my life, I'm sure I would like hang my coat and say, I am done, I'm done. I want to later retire and just chill in a farm somewhere far away and with my kids, who probably would no longer want me because they would have grown old. But that's also a possibility, and that's the beauty of life. We should all embrace that life is not just about work. Like life is to live, right? At the end of the day, you should do what you want to do. No matter which category of woman you fall under, you should just do what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
finally, I think this would have gone out of context if you gave a really practical answer to this question, but you've said something. I guess you have answered the question. So the question is, when do you feel most alive?
Most alive.
Yeah.
I think everybody has a certain sacred purpose or a calling in life that that this is something that I actually know deep within myself that I enjoy doing. It doesn't have to be always work. It could be something extracurricular, or it could be a part of yourself that you want to embrace. For me, it would be sort of being there for people who matter to me, and even helping people and keeping things together when things are falling apart. It could be anybody. It could be friends, family, colleagues, people who work at home, employees. I think I wouldn't call it troubleshooting, but I like being there for people. I like that sort of keeps me alive. The life comes from knowing that you have taken care of things for somebody else, and you're being able to step up and provide a solution where they're not able to see a solution. I don't know whether I'm making any sense, but sort of a profound philosophical angle. But I think I enjoy sort of being there for people, and I find fulfillment when people see the value in sort of me being there for them. So that keeps me alive, including there for my children, whoever else. Yeah. But that's sort of out of the visual effects space, but this is me.
Right. I mean, where would we be without our philosophies?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody should have their sacred calling, and they should be
Amen to that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for this beautiful conversation.
Yes,